step just to create something, a detailed financial plan. Though this is maybe more than grandma's level, because it has to be detailed. It's a detailed financial plan. You know, there are different types of planning. You could plan without attaching monetary value to it. Until it has monetary value attached to it, it's not yet budgetary. Are we together? Because you could plan, I want to build house next year. But a good planner should attach the monetary value to it. How much will it cost you to build that house next year? How do you intend to source for the money to build the house? How long do you think this house building, with the trend of resources you are getting, how long do you think it will take you to actualize that plan? You see, there are many condiments in it. The period of time it will take you. They have a need to get performance report. And it's just one simple thing he's looking for. What is our available balance as per approved budget lines? You begin to wonder, what does he really need this report for? So that he can know if he should approve the next expense they have submitted to him. That request, somebody, a staff or somebody in the agency is bringing to him that we need to buy this, we need to do that. He wants to remain in the limit. He doesn't want to exceed. He wants to have a base to approve, not just in the air, without knowing, just take decision. Because you are the CEO, just keep approving. I found out that some of us, I don't know, some agencies just approve, you know, without looking at what is the appropriation act that they've given you. What is it? What is it on that revenue line or expenditure line? So you need to manage it. And some of these budgetary plans span over 3 years. We have medium term or short term. That's the specific period we're talking of. It could be medium, it could be short. That's like MTEF, which is usually 3 years, and the other one, like your corporation's annual budget, which is just one fiscal year. You can also define it to be the process of constructing a budget and then utilizing it to control the operations of your business. It is not just having it down. And that is why many agencies, many CEOs today do virement without caution. You know, our barrister told us yesterday that is an offense. You've already committed an offense. And you say many inspectors keep coming to your agencies. Why? Because we keep committing this offense that give them reasons to come. We keep doing it. But at least if we are doing it, like I tell people, play within the loop. Holes. You understand? Be safe. Don't give them avenue to feed on you, so to say. Don't give them reasons to come and just sit on you. Something clearly written, and then you put your hand into it. You should be able to use your budget to control your operations. And that was what my then CEO was doing. because I was in account when he was there, but now I'm in monitoring and evaluation. He used to ask for this report. And sometimes too, let me give you a secret. When he doesn't feel like approving any request you have brought to him, that's an avenue too. We don't have money for this thing. Or we have exhausted the money budgeted for it. Or the available balance cannot take care of the amount you are asking for. Those are small legal means. I know we have CEOs here, like our mommy in front here. Yeah, those are some things you can use to decline unnecessary requests without making someone to look at you as a bad person. Are we together? So those are some of the things or reasons or definition for budgetary planning. She's wearing my cloth. Come in so that you all notice. Okay, now we have looked at the title budgetary planning. We now want to look at its components. What are the things that make up this planning, this monetary planning, this financial plan? What are the things that makes it up? But our focus will be on Fiscal Responsibility Act. These are guiding principles. So we are taking the component of this topic from part 4, which focuses on the element of budgetary planning. And there are 3 components there, or 3 elements. 3 components or 3 elements. And they are listed here. 1, the schedule of estimates. That's the first one, schedule of estimate. You know your annual budget too is schedule of estimates, both revenue and expenditure. But the first schedule spans for 3 years, for the next 3 financial years. That's like your MTEF. So the first one is the schedule estimate of revenue and expenditure for next 3 financial years, otherwise known as MTEF, medium-term expenditure framework. And then the second element, when you are going into budgetary planning, these are the things you should bear in mind that your organization should be doing. You should be able to prepare your MTEF and then your annual budget. The lastly, projected operating surplus. So if you are part of that team that is always working on your budget, these 3 things should be in mind when you are preparing your budget. Are we together? Now let's look at them bit by bit. What do we understand by schedule of estimate of revenue? Not an elementary plan. It's not, shall I say, a departmental plan. It spans beyond your unit, even though it's incorporated into the strategic plan. So this schedule of estimates of revenue and expenditure for the next 3 years emphasizes estimate of revenue and expenditure, good, but rests on strategic plan. And it pulls inputs from every directorate, every department, every unit comes in. Everybody has input, but it's usually at the top level, considering all the input from all units and departments. And this strategic plan must be approved by the board. Your CEO should stand and say, so to say, I made this plan. You understand? You should be accountable for it. Is the chairman of that plan. Must be approved by the board. And it is also the foundation for annual budget. It is from this schedule for the next 3 years that every year your annual budget is being pulled out. Next. These are some of the things inclusive in this schedule of estimate for the next 3 years. You know, ordinarily you're supposed to just carry figures. You know, the estimate, like the name implies, estimate of revenue and expenditure. But it goes beyond that. Before those figures and estimates, you should have a small talk, like introduction, like corporate content, brief in front of it before you go ahead. And so these are some of the things you should add to that estimate before you go to the figure angle. You should have background information about your agency. Let's know you. Let's meet you. Just short. Let the legislature know who you are. Which sector do you belong to? Under which ministry, and something like that. Short. Who are your board members? And then you have agency mandate. What do you do? What is your mandate? Like Fiscal Responsibility Commission, our mandate is to promote prudent and transparent fiscal management in Nigeria. Simple and short. Promote prudent and transparent fiscal management in Nigeria. So let's know your mandate, so that by the time they start reading through, they can, okay, this is their mandate. They are supposed to promote prudency. Oh, they need this actually to carry out this act of promoting prudency. So let's know you, let's meet you. And then let's also know your area of focus, your strategic content. And I would like to add, you can't be outside the sector you are. For instance, if you are under the Ministry of Health, and that ministry is intending to build more hospitals in almost all the local governments in Nigeria. They intend to increase number of hospitals. And then you as a ministry under them, your focus shift to buying ambulances. You are now leaving the sectorial focus. So your strategic context identify the focus of the agency in the period within the context of the strategic plan. And then after that, you also have review of the preceding 3 years, financial years, those that occurred before the next NTEF you want to prepare. You should have something to show for the past 3 years. And then next, you have assumptions for financial projections for subsequent 3 financial years. What are your assumptions? You're assuming what the commodity price will be like. That is why, when they are sending these budget circulars out, they give you guide. Sometimes they add the budget prices, current prices, market values of some things, so your assumptions should come from those areas. Inflation price that could affect your budgetary plan. So those are the underlying assumptions. You stated there also. These are like the corporate discussions you should place before going into the figures. And then you have financial projections. Now you've come to the area of your figures, where you talk about your revenue, statutory allocation, your IGL, your grant, and the rest. And then you have your overhead, details in line with the chart of accounts. Your overhead should go in line with our current Nigerian chart of account, NCOA. So you should pick your overhead to blend with our chart of account and consistent with your annual audited financial statement. You also go over to your capital budget, comprehensive details of all capital expenditure to be provided with rationale for the expenditure, the reasons for which you want to go into this capital expenditure. And when you have project to incur as part of your capital expenditure, if it's project inclined, let us know if it is ongoing or it's just starting, it's a new status. Please state all those things there. And then with the last one, we have summary of financial projections. You summarize, having columns of year to date, annualized, and periods 1 to 3. Okay, now, we said there are 3 components in budgetary planning. We've looked at the first one, schedule of estimates of revenue and expenditure for the next 3 financial years. Now there's something else you need to do here when you are planning, which is the annual budget. And we said your annual budget, the foundation of preparing it comes from your MTEF. That's that first schedule we just looked at. So, but there's this norm that we are yet to get used to, or that's not good that we are used to. We just prepared a budget without consideration for what we said it was going to be before that year occurred. You're supposed to pull out your next budget from your MTEP. That's the ideal. It's the foundation for your annual budget. So this is derived from the schedule estimate of revenue and expenditure for the next 3 financial years. So what's an annual budget? That's estimate of revenue and expenditure of corporations over a period of 1 year. And it's a financial plan too. It has to be in money. Money must be attached to it. You don't just plan. This year we are going to increase our salaries. It must be put down with figures too. At what rate are you increasing? How much will it be? Not just saying it. It must be in figures. The annual budget reflects fiscal policy decisions taken by the government, your sector, before your corporation. So your annual budget should reflect this. You should put in mind what your government is intending for that year, the fiscal policies they have in place for that year, what the sector, also the focus of that sector in which your corporation belongs, and then before you come down to your corporation annual. Wish this will happen. Okay. Okay. Mr. Chairman, sir, you're welcome, sir. So you don't just submit your annual budget without accompanying documents. There are documents you submit alongside with your annual budget. The copy of underlying revenue and expenditure profile for the next 2 years. These are some things you must accompany your annual budget with. I don't know, is anybody in the budget department here of your organization? Can we know you? Yes. Can you give us, not just reading or having this, because we're going to have the notes, practically what you do, what you attach with your annual budget? Yes, Oga Risk Officer. One thing you attach to your annual budget when you are submitting it. Nothing is wrong. No answer is wrong.
Like we have said,
yes,
the documents you will attach depends on the type of budget you're preparing. The revenue budget will have its own schedule to show the expected sources of all the revenues. And the overhead will equally show the respective overhead you intend to incur. And the capital budget have its own required documents, like the approvals you need to be able to embark and probably the board approval, finally.
Thank you, sir. We really learned from that. Please, let's hear from the other man. Thank you.
Good morning, my distinguished colleagues. Some of the things that, one of the documents that is attached is the previous year's budget performance.
Beautiful.
Of your overhead, capital. They want to know the status of your performance for the previous year before the next one can go on. Then we also talk of revenue. In terms of revenue, they want to know what happened last year before we can project for the future one.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. They've said it correctly. And these are the things listed. The revenue, your performance for previous years, even up to 18 months, not just previous year, up to 18 months performance behind. Those are some of the documents that will come in. And then you also have to have a schedule for your monthly revenue collection. Monthly, you have in mind that, I'm going to generate this amount of money. How do you intend? What is it going to look like monthly? That should accompany your annual budget too. And then you have your measures on cost control, evaluation of results of programs financed with budgetary resources. What are the cost implications of all those expenditure you want to incur using government resources, your budgetary resources? And then you should have an appendix to evaluating the fiscal and other related risks to the annual budget and specifying measures to be taken to offset the occurrence of such risk. Are we together here? So these are some things to consider which we have mentioned while discussing earlier. And the first primary thing is consider the sector to which you come from. What is your focus in that sector? There are things to consider. It's very, very important. You must consider that sector to which your corporation belongs. You also need the corporations prepare their budget based on the guidelines received. You don't just prepare your budget from abstract. That called circular they gave to you for your budget is one primary thing you should consider. Don't go outside it. Look at it, because there are guidelines to your preparation, to preparing that annual budget. So you should look at the called circulars too. Limit or ceilings established based on the limit for total expenditure and the ministerial sectorial priorities. You know, they used to have budget limits, budget ceilings. Consider it too, so that you don't submit a budget that will be rejected or disapproved. And then you also need to look at these ceilings for ministries can be broken down into various limits of details, including the level of existing spending, savings or efficiency requirements, and allocations for new policy requirements. You break it down. Let there be clarity. Let there be reasons. Let there be details as per why you are doing what you intend to do. It should also include procedural guidelines for submitting the budget. And that's more of the timetable for the budget process. Okay. Now this is the third element in budgetary planning. The operating surplus, your projected operating surplus. Before we look at this operating surplus, I wanted to remove it. Yes. Since we know it's operating surplus we are looking at. Have we heard of the word operating surplus? Have we heard of that word, operating surplus? Please, can somebody just tell me the meaning of operating surplus? To a grandma, we don't need plenty grammar. Just explain it to a grandma. I'm hearing something background. Surplus that is operating. You have still not explained to grandma. Please give to our daddy here.
If I have to explain to grandma, I'll tell her that the money where you get within 1 year and the thing where you spend out of it, waiting remain. Now the remaining one out of
after getting this balance, know at the back of your mind that government is entitled to 80% of that balance. So when you are meeting this as part of your budget plan, you must bear in mind that that operating surplus you have left, 80% of it goes to CRF because you are a federal government agency. And the Fiscal Responsibility Commission has developed a template for the determination of operating surplus by scheduled corporations. So we have a template already, and one of us came yesterday to ask for this template. I came with just a copy. Sorry about that. But he went through it, yes. But this existing template, we are working on it. We are planning on reviewing or on bringing out a new one because of the many changes that is happening now, like through the Finance Act, Finance Circulars. So many changes are being incorporated into this template. But it's still working. We're still using it. It's still working. But we are just taking note of the new inputs coming in to operating surplus. You'll see that also in the next class. And then, in one of our objectives, learning objectives, we said, upon knowing what a budgetary planning is, and what budgetary planning is skill component, and you have done all this, you should also be at the back of your mind. Are you complying with the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 law while preparing this plan? Is it in compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 while you are preparing this schedule of estimate for revenue and expenditure for the next 3 years while you're preparing your annual budget and when you're also preparing your projected operating surplus? Is it in compliance with the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007? Then you may ask, I've taken note of all those things you said earlier. I've complied with the call circular and the guidelines. I've complied with the sectorial policy. What again should I comply with? You need to comply with Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007 law. And what is it? Underlined word there. Look at the first one. When you're doing your schedule of estimates for the next 3 financial years, and this is a way forward. We are complaining that revenue needs to be enhanced in Nigeria. This is the way forward. How promptly are you submitting this document for decision making? And that's why sometimes we are not getting it right.